Welcome to the Dennis from Scratch Q&A show, where we record every episode twice because of technical difficulties the first time around. This episode is going to be about raw milk because I've been getting a lot of questions in the last few days about raw milk, and so I'm just going to go through all of them right now. First question comes from Honky Monkey. I'm guessing that's not a Christian name. I'm guessing your mom didn't give you that one. But can I call you Mr. Monkey? I'll take that as a yes. Mr. Monkey says, I keep reading that milk causes inflammation. What are your thoughts? Thanks. Well, I do have some thoughts, and it really depends on the milk that you're drinking. So there's four, pillars of milk that you should abide by. First off, it needs to be raw. If it's pasteurized, that means the proteins have been denatured by the heat, and that can cause inflammation. So raw milk. Second, it needs to be whole milk that is natural in its cream state. So it hasn't been homogenized where they smash the milk cream particles so small that it just stays mixed homogeneously into the milk and the cream layer doesn't separate. That causes lots of problems because the fat particles become so small that they just pass right through your gut line into your blood. So you're having milk directly into your blood, and that is not good. It needs to be digested in your stomach first. So non-homogenized. Third, we want to make sure that the milk is coming from animals, cows, goats, whatever, that are eating grass or a natural diet, not grains. Oftentimes cows in factory production methods are just fed corn and soy and they don't get any grass. That's a problem because that's their natural diet. So when they're eating the corn and the soy, they're building up toxins in their body, and that goes into the milk, which when you drink it will cause inflammation in you. And fourth, we want to make sure that the cows, and this one's kind of a little bit more sciencey, we want to make sure that the cows are A2 type cows, or traditional milking cows. A few hundred years ago, there was a genetic variation that cow breeders found that caused the cows to make more milk, but it was a lower quality milk that when the people drank it, caused some mucus and sinus issues. Well, the cow researchers, geneticists didn't care, and they started breeding the cows that way with that A1 genetic variation because it was more milk, even though it was lower quality. Some people, like the French, because they're snobby about food, didn't accept that milk, and they kept pure cow breeds, that didn't have that genetic variation, and that's what we call A2 cows. So if your milk is coming from A1, that can cause inflammation and sinus issues. If it's coming from A2 genetic cows, then it's perfectly fine. So if any of those things are present, milk could cause you inflammation. But if you're following those four pillars and having healthy, good milk, it will actually do the opposite and reduce inflammation in your body because there's just so many health benefits of raw milk, which I've talked about in my other videos. Question 2 comes from Angelica Diaz, who says, where can I buy or get raw milk? Well, Angelica, you can get raw milk from cows or goats or any other animal that produces milk. Anyway, I'm kidding. How do you get raw milk? Well, there is a foundation called the Weston A. Price Foundation, and they have chapter leaders across the entire United States. So most areas have someone who you can call, and they will help get you in touch with local farmers for providing meat, eggs, raw milk. And so that's what I would recommend to you. I'll put a link to where you can find who your chapter leader is, and then literally they got their information there. You can email them, you can just text or call them. So it's super convenient, and they should be able to help you find a good quality raw milk. Now, some states in the United States, I can't speak to other countries because their laws are all different than what I'm familiar with, but some states in the union do allow the sale of raw milk in grocery stores. I know California, for example, despite the fact that they are heavily regulated in a lot of other areas, they do allow raw milk to be sold in the grocery stores. So that's an option for you if you live in some states. But like in Illinois where I live, you basically have to go to the farm and buy it directly and bring your own jars. So they have weird rules, and that's why the Weston A. Price Foundation is super helpful in getting you connected with the farmers that sell raw milk. Question 3 comes from Dany Alvarez, who says, Hi Dennis. Hi Dany. Love the content. I do too. Whenever I try drinking raw milk, I have a lot of diarrhea. What should I do to deal with it? This is actually a fairly common situation where you start drinking raw milk from not drinking raw milk and you develop some diarrhea or a slight fever. Don't worry, these do go away. And how do you manage it? Well, the reason that it's happening is because there's a lot of probiotics in that raw milk. Just like if you were to start eating fermented pickles, then there's gonna be a lot of probiotics, or some kefir or yogurt that has a lot of probiotics in it. These can cause your stomach to change. So the gut flora is gonna start balancing, especially if you haven't been eating these foods before. And that is going to cause your body to detox. When you detox, you get symptoms like mild fever, you get symptoms like diarrhea. It's just ways for your body to expel toxins. So assuming that you're not dealing with like an allergy situation, which you would be able to tell if you also get diarrhea when you drink pasteurized milk, then that can be a sign of maybe you've got an intolerance that needs to be dealt with in some other way. You might want to check out some kind of holistic allergy treatment if that was the case. But assuming that's not the case, it will go away if you just continue to drink the milk. But I would recommend that you start with small doses if you're experiencing problems. So maybe just a tablespoon the first day, 2 tablespoons the next day. Just kind of ramp it up slowly till eventually you'll be able to drink as much as you like. But just kind of focus on how you're feeling. Be very attentive to that, because you don't want to be super uncomfortable or have some kind of dehydration because you've got too much diarrhea. So you just want to manage that to make sure that you're not going to make yourself sick. The same is true with lacto-fermented pickles that have a high probiotic count. You want to start slowly. So you might just want like half a teaspoon of pickle juice the first day, or just like a taste of it, and then just ramp it up. But now, since my gut flora is balanced and I eat this regularly, I wouldn't worry about a big swig. So it's also delicious. So the best advice I can give is to go slow and listen to your body. Question 4 comes from Eitan, kind of like Ethan, but also with an I instead of a H, and also nothing like Ethan, never mind now that I look at it. Hello, thank you for making this video. Very informative, and I appreciate the resources you've provided. I have familial hypercholesterolemia. This essentially means I inherited a disorder that makes it harder for my body to remove low-density lipoprotein in my body. As we know, milk contains a lot of cholesterol. Would you recommend a raw milk diet for someone like myself? Thank you. You're welcome. So first off, milk, particularly raw milk, has never been associated with an increase in serum cholesterol levels, or cholesterol in your blood, which is what you're talking about here. So that's what I would start with, is that it doesn't increase your cholesterol. And in fact, raw milk has a lot of other health benefits such that it will help your body be overall healthy. So if your body doesn't need to focus health on other areas, it can focus its energies on managing your cholesterol. So I think that you would actually see a benefit if you start drinking raw milk. You probably should take this with a grain of salt, because I'm not particularly familiar with the condition that you're talking about, but those are my thoughts for whatever it's worth. And like I mentioned in the last question, just go slowly with it. Start with a tablespoon or a couple tablespoons a day and just kind of see how you feel. And if you regularly measure your cholesterol levels, we'll continue to do that while you're drinking the raw milk and see what impact it has on you. Question 5 comes from RapatipatooO, who says, I'm new to raw milk. What about salmonella, E. coli, etc.? Personally, I'm most scared of the etc. And actually, I'm not kidding. So here's what I mean. It sounds like you're afraid of foodborne illness, particularly bacterial foodborne illness in raw milk. And that's what we're all told, is to be afraid. Be very afraid. Well, what they also don't tell us is that more than 90% of foodborne illness cases are not bacterial. In other words, less than 10% of foodborne illnesses are caused by bacteria, and more than 90% of foodborne illnesses are caused by chemical and heavy metal contamination in your food from factory food processing. But why don't we hear about this? Because it would hurt the bottom line of the big food companies that factory produce their food. Natural food doesn't have the potential for chemical and heavy metal contaminants, only factory processed food. So we hear about bacterial contamination that takes up less than 10%. of all foodborne illness cases. First off, we shouldn't be that scared of it. We should be scared of factory-produced food. But also, raw milk is the only food in our food supply that has a robust antimicrobial defense system built into it. It contains hydrogen peroxide. It contains all sorts of enzymes and natural probiotics that help keep the milk safe from these pathogens. I think it's the Listeria pathogen that people are scared, oh no, it's gonna cause sickness. Well, it only causes sickness if there's a huge amount of contaminant in the milk and you drink it right away. Because guess what? After 2 or 3 days of the milk sitting in the fridge, the raw milk will naturally destroy the Listeria to make it safe for you to drink. So that's what I'm talking about, is raw milk is just the safest food you can possibly drink. To summarize, I already made a video about all this. The numbers that I was bringing up in that video came from government numbers, the CDC and stuff like that. And they were including salmonella, E. coli, and the other bacterial food diseases, right, in their numbers. So I stand behind the numbers I had in that video. You're 35,000 times safer drinking raw milk than other foods. I wouldn't worry about it. In fact, I'd be scared of drinking pasteurized milk, which comes from a factory. And question 6 comes from Ria Almeida, who says, subscribed. Ria, that is a very fascinating question. Very, very insightful comment. I don't have anything to say off the top of my head, but let me check my notes here, make sure. I'm just kidding. I don't have any notes. It's just the questions. The other pages, they're all blank. So I don't have anything left to say, except thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. That's about it.